Hey everyone, it's your buddy back again with another exciting fanfic, which is what if Naruto and Hinata returned as Emperor and Empress to destroy Konoha Part 2. If you enjoy this story, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more fanfics like this. Now, let's dive right into the fanfic. Benisato's backstory earned Jiraiya a death glare from Sakura and Kaharu. Asuma and Kakashi shook their heads. After the Konohagakure envoy introduced themselves, Danzo was looking at the woman with interest. That is a very interesting technique you have, he commented. As it should, Benisato replied, raising her left hand, allowing the snake tattoo on her arm and forearm to come to life. The dark snake coiled around her arm, flicking its forked tongue out, and hissing at Jiraiya. The Minazuki are descended from Yamada no Orochi, or so the story goes. You can say that the Minazuki and the snake are intertwined. The snake returned to its normal position and changed back into a tattoo. About the tour of the city, Asuma prodded. Of course, Benisato replied. Since we are closest to the hospital, we will start there. The Empress will not be there, as she will be with her husband in a series of meetings with the council. However, Major Yamada, the lady's second in command and director Uzumaki will be present. As expected, Benisato noted the reactions of the Konoha envoy when she said, Uzumaki. Jiraiya's mood darkened, as did Asuma and Kakashi. Sakura looked angry, as did Kiba. Sasuke looked smug. Sai looked, well, like Sai. Danzu's frown deepened. Kaharu and Hanmura held their tongues in check, lest they said the wrong thing and get ejected from the country, as their guide was the commander of the Emperor and Empress consort's bodyguards. Did you say, Uzumaki? Sakura repeated. Yes, Benisato confirmed. Director Karen Uzumaki. She was an understudy of the Empress consort alongside Matsuri of Suna. That shot Jiraiya and the others down. Oh, Uzumaki, you say? Danzo repeated. I thought the Uzumaki clan were wiped out in the last war back in the east. Oh, far from it, Benisato replied. The Uzumaki is one of the great imperial clans of the west. Its clan patriarch is Takuma Uzumaki. At that name, Jiraiya and Danzo visibly paled, as did Asuma Sarutobi. Takuma Uzumaki was the younger brother of Kushina Uzumaki, which made her Minato's brother-in-law, and more importantly, Naruto's uncle. He was known as the Maelstrom of Whirlpool, for his skills in Fuinjutsu and Ninjutsu, as well as his fierce temper. As Benisato led Jiraiya and the others to the hospital, the wheels in Jiraiya's head were turning. Kushina had told him once she was safe in Konoha that the Uzumaki had been decimated, that only a scant few remained following Uzushiyogakure's destruction. But Kushina had been more wily than Jiraiya had given her credit for. So, Kushina, Jiraiya thought. You must have known that Whirlpool was going to fall and obviously you did not trust Konoha. But you were married to Minato, so your hands were tied. So you had Takuma and the surviving Uzumaki and Whirlpool shinobi flee the country. Never would have suspected that they would relocate here. Well played, Kushina. Well played indeed. What Jiraiya did not know was that the bodies of the Uzushiogakure shinobi that littered the ruined village were instead those of Kumo and Iwa shinobi dressed in Uzu's uniforms. Kushina had ordered her brother, the Yondaime Uzukage, to relocate the entire village to its fallback spot, located in the west. Out of sight, out of mind. But a second thought began to creep into Jiraiya's mind. If Naruto fled to the west and found out that he had family here, and if they found out from him about Konoha's betrayal. He pushed that thought out of his mind as Benisato led him and the others to the hospital. The Imperial Hospital of Kimen was bigger than that of the one in Konoha. Located in a wooded section of Kimen, the hospital consisted of two buildings, the main hospital, which was a 5-story building, and the smaller, 3-story building which housed the hospital's intensive care unit for its more serious cases. Karen Uzumaki, the director of the hospital, and Kokura Yamada, the Empress consort's number 2 in the medic program, had given the Konoha envoy a tour of the hospital. Aside from medic ninjas who worked with the shinobi, the samurai had combat medics. The medics in training got the basics of medic training from the academy, which consists of human anatomy, chakra control, and studying medical texts. Upon graduation, the medics were given a 8-month training course in their respective fields. As Sakura and the others saw, the medic nins were proficient in techniques such as the chakra scalpel and the mystic palm jutsu, but they were also well versed in acupuncture and shiatsu, finger and palm pressure, stretches, and other massaging techniques. The combat medics, who did not use chakra, relied on the latter. What surprised Sakura and the others were that someone of them had incorporated their various elemental releases into the medical ninjutsu. The medics, shinobi and samurai, were also highly skilled in herbology, the theory of traditional herbal therapy, something that has not been seen in the East. As the Western Empire was home to many types of medicinal herbs, such herbs in the East were very rare. When Sakura questioned as to how effective the Imperial combat medics were, Karen and Koda had taken them to an observation room, where they watched an operation in progress. The patient was a prominent merchant working for the Pakara merchant house, who was being operated on for a ruptured appendix, while Karen explained the procedure. First, they used shiatsu to dull the pain from his appendix. Then they used it to knock him out cold. Working quickly, they opened him up, removed the ruptured appendix, and stitched him closed. The merchant would be in bed for 2 weeks following the operation, but would make a full recovery. The operation took less than 30 minutes. The combat medics were professional and precise. Despite the fact that the Imperial Medic Corps was far more advanced than Konoha's own program, Sakura Haruno was highly impressed, as was Danzo and the two elders. With the tour of the hospital over, Benesato had taken back her charges. Danzo then suggested that they go and check out the school for the shinobi and samurai in training. In the unified West, the training school for the rising shinobi and samurai had no official name. It was simply known as the Academy. The largest ones were in the major cities in the West: Kimen, Kurata Port, Shinzoku, South Ichiyama, and Tears Point. Located in the western part of Kimen, the academy was easily twice the size of the Shinobi Academy in Konoha, a compound unto itself, complete with dorms for orphaned children who were being trained as samurai and shinobi. When Naruto and Hinata had ascended to the position of Emperor and Empress consort, they realized that a national system of education for the next generation of samurai and shinobi was needed. The second thing that Naruto and Hinata had done after establishing the elite guard was to organize a system of training schools for the shinobi and samurai. Unlike the Shinobi Academy in Konoha, which by their time had been watered down, and in most cases lacked the necessary funding as the civilian council had stole a sizable portion of the academy's funding, the Emperor and Empress consort, with the full backing of the Imperial Council, made sure that the academy was a top-notch school, the faculty being only Junin and Saisebushi veterans who had fought in the unification wars. The academy had 2 headmasters, one samurai, the other a shinobi. The shinobi headmistress was Azumi Kato, a Junin-level shinobi, while the samurai headmaster was a Saisebushi named Ryahaku Kojima. The pair had already been notified of the visit and was asked by Naruto and Hinata to give them a tour of the facility. The academy's students were taught not only the basics, such as geography, reading, writing, arithmetic, and science, but also taught basic hand-to-hand combat for both shinobi and samurai. As Jiraiya and the 3 elders found out, not only did the shinobi and samurai in training attended the same classes, but that the samurai can also use chakra to reinforce their weapons to make them even more stronger. As the students entered in their final 2 years in the academy, they began to take specialized classes in regards to their fields. For those who showed interest in pursuing a medical career, they would begin taking classes in basic and advanced medicine. Upon graduation, aside from being assigned to their cells, the rising medic nins and combat medics would spend 2 days out of the week at the hospital. For those who specialized in tracking and spying, they had sensor class for the shinobi, and recon class for the samurai. Physical education was also top priority, as Jiraiya and the others saw various classes in chakra control, physical strength training and endurance training. As Headmaster Kojima and Headmistress Kato said, the training is brutal, yes, but it makes them tough. And the assignments? Simply put, an S-rank mission to Konoha is like a C rank to the Imperial Shinobi and Samurai. Jiraiya and Danzo wanted to see more, but Benisato refused, citing national security issues. In short, the Academy's training methods were far superior to those of Konoha's own, as much as the elders and Jiraiya hated to admit, as the Empire's methods cranked out battle-worthy shinobi and samurai in half the time Konoha could. Even worse, a mid-level Imperial shinobi and samurai could easily thrash 5 of Konoha's Junin. So the young shinobi and samurai in training take classes together? Koharu asked as they were leaving the academy. Yes, Benisato replied. As the Imperial Defense Forces are both shinobi and samurai, they train together and fight together. The Emperor and Empress believe that a warrior's strength, whether they are a shinobi or a samurai, comes from the warrior who is fighting by his side. Something that Sanshi has taught them both. Show respect and honor to those who fight by your side, and it will be returned 100-fold. Sanshi. Danzo repeated. He had heard the name before when he was younger. He is the Minister of Defense, and the only samurai to ever reach the rank of Kodenbushi, the legendary samurai, Benisato explained. Similar to that of Konoha's legendary Sannin. This, Jiraiya knew, as he, Tsunade and Orochimaru had faced the wily samurai in a 3-on-1 battle and lost shortly after their confrontation with Hanzo the Salamander. On top of that, Sanshi had also defeated Hiruzen Sarutobi, a man known to Konoha as the Professor, and the God of Shinobi, and fought General Mifune to a draw. The samurai have a ranking system which is similar to the shinobi, the Snake Queen continued. Aonisebushi is the equivalent of Genin. Chukanbushi is the equivalent of Chunin. And Saisebushi is the equivalent of Junin. Only a Saisebushi can take on apprentices, or even a cell of Aonisebushi. At that moment, Sasuke decided to speak. A shinobi will always be stronger than a samurai. Benisato stopped and turned around. Know this, she replied curtly. I've fought with the samurai. They are just as tough as battle-hardened Junin. In some cases, a samurai can be better suited for a mission rather than a shinobi, and vice versa. The emperor himself is trained in both the ways of the shinobi and the samurai, a fact that you yourself can attest to that painfully. Sasuke growled. Benisato had him there. For all his talk about being an elite, the emperor was clearly stronger than him. Seeing the Uchiha was properly humbled for the time being, Benisato continued with the tour. Since today is Friday, you guys are in for a treat, Benisato said. Even though we are at peace, the Emperor and Empress Consort wants our forces to be razor sharp. Every Friday, we hold local tournaments here in Kimin and in other parts of the Empire. We're on our way to the proving grounds now to have a look. You guys hold local tournaments? Kiba asked, now interested. Benisato nodded. Yes. It provides free entertainment for the civilians, and it also promotes healthy rivalries between samurai and shinobi. There's also the Imperial Kumite, which is held in South Ichiyama every first week in July. Only the best of the best compete in the Imperial Kumite. Interesting, Sasuke thought as he and the others followed Benisato. The proving grounds were Kimin's answer to Konoha's training grounds used by their shinobi to hone in their skills. Located on the outskirts of the imperial capital, the proving grounds was 3 times the size of training ground number 44, the Forest of Death. The proving grounds was split into 4 sections. Ground number 1 was the Enlightenment Grounds, in which samurai and shinobi meditated in peace with the help of the shinobi monks who maintained the grounds. Ground number 2 was the Weapons Grounds, where shinobi and samurai spar using their various weapons. Ground number 3 was the Jutsu Grounds, where the shinobi practiced their techniques. Of course, Sasuke tried to use the Sharingan to steal the jutsu, but found that upon activating his dojutsu, it would automatically cut off. He tried again, but with the same results. Kakashi, and unknown to both the last Uchiha and Hatake, Danzo tried to do the same with his own hidden Sharingan, but with the same results as did the Uchiha and his former sensei. Last, was ground number 3, which was simply known as the arena. Located in the heart of the proving grounds, the arena was one large area which was clear of trees. The arena was closed off on 3 sides, with a series of stands on the 3 sides. A lodge which served as a medical station was located beside the stands on the left-hand side. To the Konoha group, it reminded them of the Chunin exam stadium in a way. A massive letdai, a circular training platform, was placed in the middle of the arena. An inscription was written around the letdai's edge which read, "The brave do not fear the grave." As the stands were already full of spectators and competitors, Benesato and the Konoha group simply stood to the side and watched as the matches commenced. As the tournament continued, Asuma and Kakashi had to admit that the Western shinobi and samurai were incredibly tough, even tougher than their counterparts in Kumo and Iwa. Sasuke snorted as he dismissed the Western shinobi and samurai as weak and unworthy of the power they wielded. Koharu and Hanmura were literally drooling, salivating as the gears in their heads had went into overdrive as they continued to watch the tournaments. It was true that the West had the muscle, but Konoha, in their eyes, had the political advantage. Even though his face said otherwise, Danzo was making plans. Plans which involve using the Empire's shinobi as fresh recruits for his route Anbu. But 2 of the combatants had caught Jiraiya and the others' attention once they stepped onto the letdai. Rock Lee and Neji Hyuga. Benesato watched as Takeshi Chiba stepped onto the letdai. Interesting. A 2-on-1 match, she mused. Jiraiya turned to Benesato. The Snake Queen gestured to Takeshi, who had with a gesture of his hand, silently ordered both the Hyuga prodigy and the Goken expert to step back, allowing him to stand in between the 2 former Konoha shinobi. Takeshi Chiba, the elite guard's resident taijutsu master, she explained. Very dangerous. Very tough. Not as tough as me, though. So are those 2, Jiraiya replied as the fight commenced. I'm sure you know that they were once Konoha shinobi until recently. Word gets around, Benesato replied as she spied Sanshi, Hiyashi Hyuga, Kota Chiba and Takuma Uzumaki seated together, talking. In fact, it's the big talk around the empire. The emperor has granted the 4 clan heads and the Junin that had came with them political asylum. Any idea as to why the emperor would do such a thing? Sakura asked. Granting them asylum and risking the ire of the leaf. Jiraiya shot Sakura a glance which told her to shut up. He then noticed Hiyashi with the other members of the council watching the fight. It's confirmed that the emperor and empress consort granted Hiyashi and the others asylum. So if they are here, could he be here as well? He thought as he continued to watch the fight between the 2 former Konoha shinobi and Takeshi Chiba. Despite the combined effort of Neji and Rock Lee, they were no match for Takeshi, as he brought the both of them down. Red Lotus Inn, Jiraiya's room. Following the tournament, Benesato had taken the Konoha group back to the Red Lotus and left for her own home. Jiraiya had ordered everyone to his room for a quick meeting in regards as to what they had seen that day. Jiraiya, however, was disappointed at the fact that he could not meet Murasaki Shibuku. I can honestly say that I am very impressed with the Western shinobi and samurai, Asuma said, remembering the match between Guy's former pupils and Takeshi Chiba. Benesato's teammate, the taijutsu expert, he held his own against Neji and Rock Lee. That guy would have been at home with the Fire Lord's guardian ninja. Their training methods for their shinobi and samurai are very impressive, Shino said. The most logical conclusion is that they combine classroom education and field exercises in order to produce battle-worthy shinobi. The Imperial Medic Corps methods as to how they train their medic nins. Sakura began as she was compiling a series of reports that was to be given to Tsunade once she returned to Konoha. Lady Tsunade may be one of the best medic nins in the history of the elemental nations, but not even she could come up with the things I've seen. Whoever the Empress is, as much as I hate to say it, she could surpass Tsunade in medical knowledge. Danzo remained silent, but Koharu and Hanmura were trading notes. Danzo was troubled. The Uzumaki clan was still alive. Takuma Uzumaki was still alive. His train of thought was interrupted when he overheard Sasuke made his opinion known to his former sensei, and to everyone in the room. I'm not impressed, Hitaki. These Westerners are beneath the leaf. They are beneath me, an elite. If given the chance, I would show them all the might of the Uchiha. Sasuke, remember what I taught you in Sakura, Kakashi replied. You must look underneath the hidden meanings. You may be good, given that you trained under myself and Danzo, but not even you could face down one of the Empire's warriors. We both fought the Emperor himself and lost. The Emperor got lucky, Sasuke shot back. Without that title to back him up, he is nothing compared to me. Now Asuma was getting tired of Sasuke's shit. Sasuke. Shut up. Sasuke's head snapped to the Sarutobi clan head. What did you say, Sarutobi? I told you to shut up, Asuma snapped, rising to his feet, hands itching to reach for his trench knives. Ever since the Emperor has beaten you in combat, you could not let that go. You could not accept the fact that there is someone out there who is stronger than you. Sasuke stood up, his eyes morphing into the Magankyu. Do you have any idea who you are speaking to? He snarled, hand reaching for his Chikudo. Someone who has been nothing but trouble for Konoha, Asuma shot back. At least that demon brat of a teammate was more loyal than you ever were. Even though they will not tell you, since they worship the ground you walk on, but I will. All of this is not Uzumaki's fault, but yours. You tried to run to Orochimaru, but the Kyuubi brat stopped you, despite the fact that you shoved a Chidori into his chest. It was because of him we had trade and military alliances, and it was because of you that we lost them all. And it's because of you that 4 of our strongest clans and 200 Junin defected from the Leaf. Because of you, our place as the strongest in the elemental nations is being threatened by Suna. The only reason that Dobi won is because he had the power of the 9 tails backing him up, Sarutobi. Remember that, Sasuke reminded him. That's the pot calling the kettle black, since you had the power of Orochimaru's cursed seal, and that was not even enough for you to kill him, not to mention that my father, the Sannin, and the council had purposely stunted his growth, so who is stronger? The dead last, or the elite? Before leaving the room, Asuma left with a parting shot. We should have kept the Kyuubi brat and banished you instead. He stormed out of the room, slamming the door behind him. Sasuke was seething as the Magankyu began to spin. That little Sasuke. Stand down, Danzo ordered. Sarutobi does have a point on the matter regarding the Emperor. The Rinnegan is indeed stronger than the Sharingan, and the fact that the Emperor did not use it in the fight shows that he is indeed a powerful shinobi. This is a very dangerous game, Sasuke. Konoha's future depends on what happens tomorrow. Jiraiya stood up. I'll calm Asuma down. Everyone else go and get some sleep. We got a big day tomorrow. The following morning, Jiraiya and the Konoha group were having breakfast inside the Red Lotus restaurant. The dining area was for the most case deserted, as it was a Saturday morning. The tension between Sasuke Uchiha and Asuma Sarutobi was still thick from the previous night, which is why both men sat on opposite sides of the table. Sasuke had not remembered how Asuma had told him that his dead last of a former teammate was worth more than him, and vowed to pay the Sarutobi clan head back for that insult. Shame that his little bastard of a nephew in his cell had died, Sasuke thought darkly. I would have loved to place them under a genjutsu. The previous night, Sasuke had written off the imperial forces as weak, and unworthy to be in his presence. But it was Koharu and Hanmura who had made Sasuke think otherwise. As always, like they had done when he was a child, they stroked his ego, telling him that through this alliance, he would learn the Empire's secrets, that through the Empire, he would become even more powerful. Powerful enough to even kill Itachi and to prove to his missing teammate that he was indeed the strongest once and for all. Sasuke liked that idea. Once he killed Itachi, not only would he beat Naruto's head into powder, but he would also crush the Emperor under his might. 4 people then entered the restaurant. The locals who were present knew who they were, and were smart enough to keep out of their way. These 4 highly trained shinobi and samurai were one of the Empire's elite special forces unit, a quartet of S-ranked warriors whose bloodlines allowed them to wield the power of the elements of wind, earth, fire and lightning. This same group of fighters who had easily crushed the Akatsuki, but did not kill any of them. Only the Emperor and Empress matched them in power and skill. They were known by several names. The Shitenno. The 4 Heavenly Kings. The 4 Devas. They walked over to the table where Jiraiya and the others sat. Kiba saw them first and alerted Jiraiya and the others to their presence. The first member was a mirror image of the Pakara merchant, imperial spy Sachiko Asahina. In truth, she was her identical twin sister, the eldest by 5 minutes, save that while Sachiko had long hair, hers was cut short. Like her twin sister, she wielded the power of the flames, but while Sachiko's flames were red, hers were black. She was dressed in the standard Junin uniform of the Imperial Defense Force, the black Shozoku uniform, similar to what Hinata usually wears while working with the medics inside the hospital, over a red Junin flak vest. A ninjutsu was strapped to small of her back. Her hitai-8 was wrapped around her neck. Her name was Sadako Asahina, the mistress of the dark flames. The second member was also female. Unlike the other 3, who were traditional shinobi, she was the product of a union between a kunoichi and a ronin samurai, which meant she was trained in both the ways of the shinobi and samurai, meaning that she was part of the samurai ninja warrior class who embraced both styles. Hailing from the town of Shinoko, she was a member of an ancient warrior cult who worshipped the deity Asura, similar to the Jashin cult Hidan is a part of, just not as bloodthirsty. She wore no flak vest with her clothing, which consisted of a black bustier, black pants and boots, think Princess Katana from the movies. Dual tantos were stuck inside her boots. Her dark hair fell behind her back. Her forehead protector was wrapped around her left leg. She looked exotic, the clear gray eyes looking down on the Konoha group with disdain. She was the protector of the divine winds, Kaide Kuriyama. The third member was a bald and bearded mountain of a man, standing 7 feet tall, literally a walking mountain of muscle. His armor reminded Jiraiya of Han's steam armor in appearance, only difference was that there was no steam. Aside from the armor, he had on a pair of black pants, but went barefoot. He was the oldest of the group, tanned, and loved a good fight. Strapped to his back was a giant broadsword the size of Zabuza's head-chopping cleaver. Like he wore his hitai-8 around his bicep. He was Kentaro Kagami, the strongman of the scorched earth. The final member of the group was the leader. For a split second, given the blonde hair and the blue eyes, Jiraiya and the others thought that he was looking at Naruto. But this guy was anything but. He was wearing armor which reminded both Sakura and Sasuke of Dodo Kazuhana's prototype chakra armor, but it was red with golden trim rather than Dodo's black with blue trim. It wasn't chakra armor, but rather armor belonging to his clan. Over the armor, he had on a black haori. Black pants and sandals completed the outfit. His hitai-8 was stitched onto his haori. He was Rasu, the shogun of the violent lightning. You guys stick out like a sore thumb, Rasu began. Then again, I'm not surprised. Eastern shinobi with a death wish. Welcome to the West, tourists. Danzo frowned. We are not tourists, he rebuked. Oh, come on, Rasu replied. Here you are, in our home, taking in the sights, seeing what the Western Empire have to offer. Face it, you guys are tourists. Sasuke jumped to his feet, activating his Sharingan. Now look here, you. He backed away as Rasu raised one hand, index and middle finger extended. Rasu childed as golden lightning danced on his finger. You really should rein in your temper, Uchiha. Otherwise, I would have to explain why I had to fry your SS to my boss. Sasuke, don't, Jiraiya warned. I've heard of these 4. These 4 are the 4 Devas. He looked at Rasu. This is the one who had defeated Itachi and his partner. The old man speaks the truth, Rasu confirmed. We tagged along with the chief and his wife on an inspection tour to the east. The Emperor gave us his blessings to test our skills against the Akatsuki, so long as we didn't kill any of them. He looked at Sasuke. So, you're Itachi's kid brother. I've seen better. Then again, I've seen worse as well. How dare you speak to me like that, you commoner? Sasuke snarled. Keep running your mouth, runt, and I'll do to you what I did to your brother, Rasu threatened. Upon hearing Sadako clear her throat, Rasu dispersed the lightning. Oh, right. You guys are to come with us. The Emperor and Empress consort would like to have a word with you guys. We're here just to make sure that everything remains nice and civil. And keep your dog under control, Sadako warned Kiba. Otherwise, I will be forced to put him down. Hall of Sovereigns, Council Chambers. Dressed in all black, the cage-style hat over his head, eyes closed in order to conceal his now active Rinnegan, Naruto sat in his chair, trying to calm the emotions that were currently going through his mind. As Emperor, Naruto had the right to refuse any envoy that came before him, but he decided to see how far Konoha had come during his absence. Hinata was also present, as was Kurama. Hiashi was absent. Hinata's bangs had covered her eyes, effectively hiding them from view. The entire council was present as well. That and whether or not he could keep his temper in check and not kill his former teammates, Sensei and Godfather for their betrayal the moment they entered the room. Naruto was not taking any chances, not against the Sharingan. He knew that the Rinnegan had the power to repel the Sharingan's genjutsu, but his council did not share that same ability. Which is why for the past hour, he had placed special anti-genjutsu seals on the council and activated them minutes before the Konoha group had arrived. The door opened and Naruto opened his eyes, just as the four devas entered the council chambers, followed by Jiraiya, Asuma Sarutobi, the three elders, and the remnants of cells 7 and 8. The four devas stepped to the side, allowing the Konoha group to face the Emperor and Empress consort. Jiraiya and the three elders were surprised to see A seated on the council as one of the Emperor's advisors, as they had read the reports that A, his brother and several of their supporters were killed when A was overthrown. To Naruto, Jiraiya looked the same, a backstabbing, super pervert. Kakashi was all business, as the little orange book he usually read was not in sight. Sakura was dressed as a medic nin, complete with Junin vest. Sasuke, however, was sizing him up, Sharingan active, looking as arrogant as ever. Danzo was doing the same. Koharu and Hanmura looked on with growing anticipation, as if they were hoping for Naruto to accept their terms for an alliance. Akamaru was growling at Bijomaru, the wolf dog growling back, until Kiba shushed him. Looking at Hinata, he could not shake the fact that the Empress was someone familiar, someone he knew very well. That and for some strange reason, the red-headed woman seated next to the former Raikage smelled strongly of foxes. Naruto focused on Danzo. Aside from Koharu and Hanmura, the Warhawk had been in his side for the longest ever since his Genin days. A hidden Sharingan behind those bandages, and he's attempting to use it to try and sway the council. Good thing those anti-genjutsu seals of design are working. And indeed they were working. Otherwise Naruto would have sensed the Sharingan's influence on the council members. What's this? Naruto thought as he continued to glare at Danzo. The Warhawk is not as crippled as he presents himself. A false arm underneath his robes with multiple Sharingans grafted, combined with the Mokoden of the Senju clan. I wonder how the old hag and that idiot former teammate of mine would take it if I told them that the Warhawk ripped off their respective clans' bloodlines. Jiraiya, Koharu, Hanmura and Danzo stood side by side and bowed, the other Konoha shinobi following suit. All except Sasuke, who smirked at the Imperial Council at his blatant show of disrespect, until Kakashi looked up, grabbed his former student by the back of the neck and forced him to bow as well. Jiraiya began to speak, acting as de facto negotiator. Lord Emperor, may your reign be a long and prosperous once. I am. Jiraiya of the legendary Sannin, Naruto began, using his chakra to mask his voice, just as he had done with Kabuto. One of 3 shinobi christened with the title by former Omegaker warlord Hanzo the Salamander. Former teammates include Tsunade Senju and Orochimaru. Trained by Hiruzen Sarutobi, deceased Sandaime Hokage of Konohagakure. Author of Ika Ika, and self-proclaimed, super pervert. Jiraiya beamed. My reputation precedes me. I am honored. No, I just like to be informed of the major players in the East, Naruto replied, causing Jiraiya's expression to fall. The movers and shakers, if you will. Information is a valuable commodity, wouldn't you agree, old man? I take it that the Hyuga and the Inoshika Cho notified you about myself and of Konoha. Jiraiya asked. We confirmed Hiashi Hyuga and his nephew, which means you were the one behind the offer for asylum. They verified what we already know, Naruto replied. Like the fact that the shinobi accompanying you, of which I can identify from my previous encounters with the Leaf or Kakashi Hatake, Asuma Sarutobi, Sakura Haruno, and Sasuke Uchiha. The one with the giant dog is Kiba Inuzuka, son of Sum Inuzuka. The silent one with the glasses is Shino Aburame, and the pale-skinned one is Sai. He looked at the elders. But I do not know these 3. Enlighten me. We are the elders of Konohagakure no Sato, Danzo began. I am Danzo Shimura. Hanmura continued the introduction. I am Hanmura Mitokado. And I am Kaharu Udatane, Kaharu finished. We are here on behalf the Godime Hokage, Tsunade Senju, the people of Konohagakure no Sato and the Lord of Fire Country, Jiraiya continued. We have come here in good faith to speak to both you, Lord Emperor and Lady Empress. Go on, Hinata said, her chakra masking her voice. Both Konoha and Fire Country interest in the unified West, as well as the both of you, Jiraiya began. From what the Pakara merchants have told us, you two were only teenagers when you decided to unify the lands. A respectable feat. It was at that time, Sasuke decided to speak. 2 years to unify the lands. Had it been me, I would have done it in less time, seeing as how I am an Uchiha. An elite. Looks like his ego is still as big as tears. Point, Naruto thought as he coed one eyebrow. The guards present looked amused. Jiraiya looked like he wanted to strangle the Uchiha, if Asuma did not beat him to it first. Claiming such a title without being capable of backing it up is very dangerous in these parts, Uchiha, Naruto countered, his eyes staring down the last Uchiha from his seat. They don't last long here in the West. Here, we prove ourselves with actions, not words. Here, respect is not given because of what clan you're from or what bloodline you wield. It is earned. Oh, and would you deactivate your Sharingan? I would hate to have you arrested for crimes against the unified West, such as the attempted murder of the Emperor by Genjutsu. Sasuke began to retort, but Kakashi's hand on his shoulder restrained him, as well as a glare from Jiraiya. Sasuke grunted before deactivating the Sharingan. You should try teaching the Uchiha some tact, Naruto noted dryly. I apologize for my student, Kakashi said. As I was saying, Jiraiya continued, Major Minazuki was nice enough to give us a tour of the capital. And I can say on behalf of the envoy and myself, we are very impressed with the Empire's methods. There is so much that the unified West and the Leaf can share, provide that we can sign a political and military alliance between your empire and Konohagakure no Sato. There is so much that we can learn from one another. You could learn from the best in politics and we can trade techniques and the like. And that you would be gaining quite a valuable ally in the Leaf. Naruto leaned back in his seat, one finger tapping the armrest of his throne, as if he was thinking about agreeing to the proposed alliance. No, Jiraiya repeated. No, Naruto repeated. Being allied to the Leaf is not in the best interest of the unified West. Not after what I had discovered through the Suna representatives. What Gaara and the Sand siblings told you is false, Kakashi explained. Konoha is the strongest of the shinobi villages. The will of fire is strong with the people. We hold many powerful shinobi within our ranks. So, the fact that Konohagakure rewards potential traitors and damn their potential heroes was false. Naruto asked, watching as Kakashi and Jiraiya stiffened slightly. That Konoha had lost every single alliance because they decided to throw in their lot with a genin who willingly defected from Konoha for the promise of power and banish a loyal shinobi for doing his job. How do you know that? Sakura demanded. Naruto smiled. Jiraiya's information network is not the only spy network in town. I have eyes and ears in the west as well. Spring Country also verified your actions, as did Mist. But most of what I know about Konoha and its shinobi came from one person from within my ranks. I believe you know him, as he was your former godson, Jiraiya, as well as being the former teammate for Cell 7. Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto watched as Jiraiya shifted uncontrollably. Kakashi frowned, as did the three elders. Sasuke looked smug. So the Dobi is still alive. Figures that you would have someone as weak as him fighting for you. Weak. Hardly, the Emperor replied mildly. He is a hero in the West. Be careful who you insult, little man, Takuma Uzumaki warned. The Uzumaki take care of their own. His gaze turned ice cold as he leveled it upon Jiraiya. And you and the Godime betrayed my nephew, your godson. Tsunade was his great aunt, and chose the leaf over blood. We believe in loyalty to one's village, but family is also important. Takuma, calm down, Naruto ordered. Takuma complied. Do you know that he is the Kyuubi reborn? Kakashi butted in. Did you know that he is wanted in the bingo book for murdering my sensei and his wife, not to mention that he is charged with treason for harming a clan heir? Funny. I thought Uzumaki was a clan heir, Naruto replied. His father was your village hero and his mother was the former princess of Whirlpool. As to the charges of treason and harming a clan heir, those charges are false, as he was banished, which means you can't charge him with treason. Second, your precious Uchiha had willingly ran off to join Orochimaru. In any case, Uzumaki was following orders. That demon brat is no heir, Kakashi snapped. He is just a fox in human skin. No one noticed the vein pulsing on Kurama's head. Or the fact that her hand was balling into a fist. It's obvious that despite being the student of the Yellow Flash, you know jack shit about Fuinjutsu, Naruto continued. The boy is a Jinchuriki, the jailer and warden, not the prisoner itself. And under the unified West, he is a powerful warrior, admired and respected by friend and foe alike. He pointed to Kakashi. Those who abandon the mission are trash. But those who abandon their comrades are lower than trash. Your words, according to Uzumaki. For favoring a traitor and not giving Uzumaki the proper tutelage, you, Kakashi Hatake, are lower than trash. In my eyes, you and Sasuke Uchiha are scum. You dare call me scum? Sasuke snarled, activating his Sharingan. You and your whore are nothing compared to me. You both hide behind your precious titles. I am an elite among elite. That was all that Sasuke could get out before the Emperor and Empress consort vanished. A split second later, the Uchiha prince felt the unmistakable touch of cold steel against his neck along with the second blade resting up against his crotch, followed by a massive dose of killer intent so potent that it even froze Jiraiya, and the others in place. Only the council, the guards present and Kurama were unaffected. Impossible. Jiraiya thought as he fell to his knees. What power? They're both faster than Minato. You call yourself an elite, and yet, your Sharingan could not track our movements, Naruto deadpanned, Okatana in hand, and against Sasuke's neck. I had hoped that our last encounter left you humbled. But now I see that it has done nothing. You have any idea who you are dealing with? Sasuke managed to spit out. Do you? The Empress retorted, her own cookery against the Uchiha's balls. Look at where my husband and I are. And look at you. For all your talk of being an elite, you are nothing but a second-rate ninja hiding behind your family name and dojutsu. Know this, Sasuke Uchiha. Naruto continued. I can kill you right now. My wife can kill you right now. You are nothing but an insect that can be crushed under my heel. And you are really trying my patience. Keep your tongue in check, or I will remove it from your mouth. And I will remove what makes you a man, Hinata finished. That caused Kiba, Kakashi, Asuma, Shino, and even the male elders to wince at Hinata's meaning. The threat properly delivered, the Emperor and Empress of the Western Empire returned to their chairs, lifting the killer intent as they did so. Regardless of what you may think, Jiraiya said, you have confirmed that the Kyuubi Jinchuriki is here in the unified West. He is a missing ninja and a S-class threat to both Konoha and to Fire Country. With all due respect, I ask that you turn him over to us so that he can be taken back to the Leaf to face our justice. There is also the matter of two of the clan heiresses which had abandoned Konoha and had made their way here along with their families, Kakashi continued. Ino Yamanaka and Hanabi Hyuga. As Sasuke is under the Konohagakure Clan Restoration Act, we demand on behalf of the Konohagakure High Council that they both be turned over to us so that they could be returned and married to Sasuke Uchiha with all haste. We also request that you hand over Tenten and Anko Mitarashi as well, for they both fall under the CRA. In regards to surrendering Uzumaki to you, the answer is no, Naruto replied, leaking out killer intent. And in regards to Yamanaka and the Hyuga, not to mention the other two, again, the answer is no, as I have granted them and their families political asylum, as well as citizenship within the unified West. You, nor Konoha are in no position to make demands of myself and of my empire. Jiraiya puffed out his chest. You will regret this, Lord Emperor. You will not like Konoha as your enemy. In any case, I seriously would not want you nor Konoha as allies either, the Emperor replied. For your insolence, you will be sent back on the first ship back to the east. Thank whatever gods you worship that I do not send your bodies back to Konoha in 6 or 7 pieces, along with a declaration of war on your village and on Fire Country. When it looked like Sasuke was going to retort, Naruto added, choose your words carefully, Uchiha. For they will be your last. Kakashi clamped down his hand on Sasuke's mouth. Sasuke, no, you got us into enough trouble already, he hissed. Calm down. As he is your prized student, you should teach him some manners when in the presence of someone higher up than he is, Naruto replied. With a wave of his hand, he said, leave my sight. Konohagakure no Sato, 2 weeks later. Upon returning to Konoha, Jiraiya had dismissed Asuma Sarutobi, Sasuke Uchiha and Cell 8, leaving himself, Kakashi, Sakura and the 2 elders to face both Tsunade and the Fire Lord. Danzo returned to his own compound, ignoring Jiraiya's request to remain with the others. Inside the Hokage's office, Tsunade Senju looked over the reports given to her by Sakura, Koharu and Hanmura. Also present was the Fire Lord, who had taken quite an interest in Konoha's attempts to get the unified West in their corner. So their medical program uses both shinobi and samurai, very interesting. It also confirmed what Captain Sarutobi said about their medic nins, Sakura said. Their healing methods, as much as I hate to admit, far surpass those of the Leaf. And their combat medics are just as skilled, despite being samurai and not knowing any jutsu. Indeed, Tsunade murmured as she scanned through the report. Acupuncture needles and shiatsu, herbology, most impressive. And to think that the Empress has created such a well-organized program for both shinobi and samurai. Their education and training is impressive, the Fire Daimyo said as he read Koharu and Hanmura's reports. The Empire using both shinobi and samurai in his forces. On top of that, they can produce Chunin and Junin in less time than we can. Tsunade set the scroll down. So what happened? Did the Emperor and his wife agree to an alliance with us? Jiraiya shook his head. They refused to ally with us. On top of that, Sasuke's attitude and mouth did not help matters, either. He insulted both the Emperor and his wife, calling her a whore, and nearly lost his head and his balls. Tsunade fumed. That foolish boy, he almost started a war because of his ego. The Emperor and his wife showed plenty of restraint in not killing Sasuke where he stood, let alone castrate him, Kakashi seconded. And despite the both of them holding back most of their chakra, their power level is, for lack of a better word, insane. The Uchiha will be reprimanded for this offense, Tsunade said. He will be placed under house arrest and will not leave Konohagakure until I see fit. I second the motion, the fire daimyo said. The emperor is an unknown. And that makes him even more dangerous. Sasuke Uchiha is becoming uncontrollable, and has been ever since Uzumaki's banishment. He needs to be humbled. Lord Daimyo, we must treat the Uchiha with great care, Koharu said in Sasuke's defense. As he is the last loyal Uchiha of Konoha, we need the Sharingan. And yet, the Emperor, from what I found out, has a bloodline similar to that of the Six-Path Sage, which makes the Sharingan obsolete, the Fire Daimyo replied curtly. I had pardoned him the first time when he tried to defect from Konoha. I will not be as merciful should he try to defect a second time. To Jiraiya and Kakashi, he said, continue. We have confirmed not only does the Emperor has the Rinnegan, but he did reveal to us one key bit of information regarding Naruto Uzumaki, reported Kakashi. Tsunade leaned forward in her chair. Please tell me that the brat is dead. Jiraiya shook his head. No. According to the Emperor, Uzumaki is alive. From the look of things, he fought alongside the Emperor in the wars unifying the continent. Meaning that the brat could have learned how to control his demon, Danzo surmised, or that he has learned how to fight more effectively from the Emperor despite our sabotaging his training at the academy and Hatake not teaching him anything other than chakra control. He turned to Tsunade. We could have avoided this a long time ago had Sarutobi given him to me to train. There's more, Tsunade, Jiraiya continued. The Uzumaki clan is not extinct. I saw Takuma Uzumaki in the west. Impossible. The Uzumaki is gone, Tsunade rebuffed. I saw the reports. The Uzumaki had been wiped out. It looks like that Kushina was not entirely honest with us, the Toad Sage replied mildly. My guess is that she ordered Takuma to evacuate Whirlpool, and to take as many survivors as he can. Even worse, the Uzumaki is one of the main clans in the empire, which means that the clan has rebuilt and is more powerful than it was back in the last Shinobi War. Hell, he's part of the Emperor's staff as one of his advisors. And he knows what we had done to his nephew, not to mention the fact that you are his great aunt. I can care less what Takuma thinks, Tsunade replied flatly. Naruto killed the closest thing I had to a daughter. Kushina was his sister. He should hand Naruto over to us so we can finish what Minato had started. Better yet, he should kill the brat himself. So what do we do about the Kyuubi brat? Koharu demanded. We know that he is there in the west. We should at least try and retrieve him by using the Anbu. The fire daimyo shook his head. No. If the Emperor finds out that we were responsible for such an action, given Uzumaki's he could declare war not only on Konoha, but he could wipe out all of Fire Country in retaliation. We can't sit here and do nothing. Koharu pleaded. If the Kyuubi brat is in the good graces of the Emperor, then he may turn his attention to us next. Only if we provoke him, the daimyo replied. That means do not provoke in any shape, form of fashion, anyone from the west that comes here, especially those from the Pakera merchant house. And Sasuke Uchiha is not to say anything about what has happened in the unified west, under threat of permanent expulsion from the shinobi forces and his Sharingan sealed. Am I clear? The assembled ninja nodded, Kakashi disappearing in order to find his student and tell him of the Fire Lord's edict. Underneath Konohagakure no Sato, Tsunade has reprimanded Sasuke for his actions back in the west, Koharu said as she, Danzo and Hanmura walked down the corridors of Danzu's underground complex. Sai remained behind the trio. As of this moment, the Uchiha is under house arrest and cannot leave the village. Tsunade knows that Sasuke falls under my jurisdiction, Danzo replied. Only I can decide his punishment. Unfortunately, she has the backing of the Fire Lord, Hanmura said. Which means that his authority overrides your own. The Emperor and his council should have agreed to the alliance, Danzo thought. Koto Amatsukami should have made sure of that. Could it be the power of the Rinnegan? On top of that, the Uzumaki clan lives. The Emperor has refused to join with us, Hanmura said. So now what do we do? There is no way around it, Danzo replied. If the Empire refuses to join us, then it is a threat to the Leaf. And if the Empire decides to join our enemies, that is a risk that we cannot take. I have been planning for something like this in the event that the Empire refused to come to our side. Such as, Koharu began. A decapitation strike, Danzo explained. Cut off the head of the snake, and the body dies. The Empire is only held together by the Emperor and his wife. Remove them from the equation, and the Empire will revert back into its warlike state. At the same time, we kidnap some of the Empire's top prospects and bring them back here in order to strengthen the Leaf. If you do this, Hanmura said, then eliminate the traitors to the Leaf and their heirs. No one betrays Konoha. Takuma Uzumaki is also a threat, Koharu said. He must die as well. Fair enough. Sigh. The ink user stepped forward and knelt before the Warhawk. Lord Danzo. Danzo pulled out a scroll. After several moments of scribbling, he closed it and handed it to his subordinate. This is a S-class Black Ops mission for the good of the village. You will return to Kimin with 2 squads of Root Anbu. There, 2 weeks from now, you will eliminate the Emperor, his whore and the Imperial Council. They are your primary targets. Your secondary targets are the 4 clan heads, the Hyuga, the Ino Shikacho and their heirs. Last, you are to eliminate Takuma Uzumaki. Sai nodded. Understood, Lord Shimura. Your will shall be done. 2 weeks later, at the Red Lotus Inn. Midnight in the Imperial capital. Inside his room at the Red Lotus Inn, Sai was making the final preparations for his mission. It had taken 2 weeks of covert preparation, but he and the 2 squads of Root Anbu who had came in disguised as tourists from the east were primed and ready to strike at the heart of the imperial nation. Unfortunately for Sai, the innkeeper had recognized Sai from his previous visit with Jiraiya and the Konohagakure envoy, and notified his wife. Minutes later, Fu had delivered word that Sai had returned. The innkeeper began to report a rising number of tourists coming from the elemental countries, which had set off an automatic red flag to the Imperial Council. When it became clear that Danzo had sent Sai and a hit squad of Root Anbu to assassinate the senior Imperial hierarchy, Naruto quickly reacted. Which is why as Sai finished making the preparations, 1 squad of the Demon Brigade led by Haku, while the 2nd squad of Hellcats led by Yugito Ni, quickly and quietly intercepted the would-be assassins, incapacitated them, and had them brought to the Imperial complex for further questioning. With Sai's hit squad incapacitated, Naruto would deal with the ink user himself. A gentle knock on Sai's door had interrupted the ink user from his preparations. Curious as to who would be at his door at this time of night, he walked over to the door and opened it. And found himself face to face with the Emperor of the United West. Hello, Sai, Naruto deadpanned. Wham! Sai dropped like a sack of potatoes, the end result of Naruto's fist bouncing off his skull. Stepping to the side, Naruto allowed 3 Hellcats to enter the room. Once Sai was searched and properly restrained, one of the Hellcats began to search Sai's belongings, and came across the mission scroll. Chief, I found something, she said, handing the scroll to Naruto, just as Haku and Yugito approached the Emperor. All of the Root Anbu has been restrained, Yugito reported. What's that? A hit list, Naruto replied. And Hinata and myself are on the top of the list. He closed the scroll and turned to Haku. Haku, go to North Kimin and bring me Hiashi, Hanabi and both generations of the Ino Shika show. I want them at the Imperial complex in no less than 15 minutes. They need to know about this. Haku nodded and rushed off to obey. Imperial complex, minutes later. Hiashi was not very happy when he was roused from his sleep. Then again, neither were the Ino Shika Cho or their heirs. But Haku said that it was urgent, and that it had something to do with all of them. Upon reaching the Imperial complex, the sight that greeted the 4 clan heads and their children shocked them. In the courtyard, were 20 bound shinobi. Anyone from Konoha recognized them as part of the Anbu, particularly those from Danzu's private security corps. They were being guarded by Yugito's Hellcats, blades drawn, ready to kill the intruders. Kurama was in her fox form, about the size of a horse, her 9 tails waving lazily in the air. She was resting on her haunches, but watching the events rather closely. Last, was Naruto and Hinata, who was talking with Benasato, Takuma and several members of the council. Hinata had noticed that her father and the others had arrived and pulled her husband away from and the others. You came. Good, Naruto said. He gestured to Sai and the bound root Anbu. Recognize these men. You should, as they belong to Danzu's root Anbu. He pulled out the mission scroll and tossed it to Shikaku. Sai had this on him. The lazy Nara had opened the scroll and read it. Hiashi, Inoichi and Shuza all crowded in around Shikaku in order to read it. Hiashi looked up in disbelief. This is a hit list, he said, disbelief written on his face. Very troublesome, Shikaku said. It's from the 3 council elders. The emperor and his wife top the list, as does Takuma Uzumaki, the imperial council, and us. Ino's eyes widened. That old bastard tried to kill all of us, she whispered. My guess is that the Hokage, Jiraiya and the council does not know about this black ops. The blood and the motive, right in your hands, Nara, Naruto said. If they penned it in snake venom, I wouldn't be surprised. To which he turned to Benasato and said, no offense. Benasato smiled meanly. None taken, chief. My guess is neither the perv nor the hag know about this, but I have to be sure before I plan my next move, Naruto said. He turned to Inoichi. Inoichi. Ino, you're both up. Inoichi and his daughter both nodded and walked over to Sai, who started to struggle. The seals on his tongue kept him from talking about Konoha, but he was defenseless against the Yamanaka's mind jutsu. 2 Hellcats quickly restrained him, leaving him helpless. Father and daughter stood before Sai, and after taking a deep breath, each raised one hand and placed it on Sai's head. And they saw everything. Tsunade has reprimanded Sasuke for his actions back in the West. As of this moment, the Uchiha is under house arrest and cannot leave the village. Tsunade knows that Sasuke falls under my jurisdiction. Only I can decide his punishment. Unfortunately, she has the backing of the Fire Lord. Which means that his authority overrides your own. The Emperor has refused to join with us. So now what do we do? There is no way around it. If the Empire refuses to join us, then it is a threat to the Leaf. And if the Empire decides to join our enemies, that is a risk that we cannot take. I have been planning for something like this in the event that the Empire refused to come to our side. Such as a decapitation strike. Cut off the head of the snake, and the body dies. The Empire is only held together by the Emperor and his wife. Remove them from the equation, and the Empire will revert back into its warlike state. At the same time, we kidnap some of the Empire's top prospects and bring them back here in order to strengthen the Leaf. If you do this, then eliminate the traitors to the Leaf and their heirs. No one betrays Konoha. Takuma Uzumaki is also a threat. He must die as well. Fair enough. Sigh. Lord Danzo. This is a S-class Black Ops mission for the good of the village. You will return to Kimin with 2 squads of Root Anbu. There, 2 weeks from now, you will eliminate the Emperor, his whore and the Imperial Council. They are your primary targets. Your secondary targets are the 4 clan heads, the Hyuga, the Ino Shikacho and their heirs. Last, you are to eliminate Takuma Uzumaki. Understood, Lord Shimura. Your will shall be done. Inoichi and Ino broke the jutsu and snapped his hand back, shocked and horrified. Inoichi turned to Naruto and Hinata. Danzo and the 2 elders, he whispered. They ordered our deaths. They wanted to kill all of us. Ino, in the meantime, fought the urge to throw up. That's all I need to hear, Naruto said. Hinata turned to Haku. Take them to Zabuza, Anko and Ibiki, she ordered in a voice that could freeze hell over while Naruto handed him a second scroll detailing how to remove the seals on the root's tongues. 4 of them is more than enough for interrogation purposes. Execute the rest. Tell them that for these 4, the kid gloves are off. Nothing is out of bounds. At a bar and grill in Kimin, Zabuza Mamachi and Ibiki Morino stopped in mid-drink. Is it just me, or do I have this sudden urge to kiss the Empress consort full on the mouth all of a sudden? Zabuza asked. Yeah, Ibiki seconded. It suddenly feels a lot like Christmas all of a sudden. At a nearby dango stand, Enko Mitarashi stopped in mid-bite. A psychotic smile crept across her lips as she found herself loving her job with the Imperial Interrogation and Torture Unit. Back inside the Imperial complex. Before Haku took them away, Naruto turned to Sai and bent low enough to whisper into his ear. Remember this day, Sai. Remember in the little time you have left that you tried to kill Naruto Uzumaki and failed. Sai's eyes went as wide as saucers. The Emperor was the Kyuubi Jinchuriki. Was the last thing he thought before being taken away. So now what do we do? Hiashi asked. Naruto turned to his father-in-law. I think a personal visit to Konoha is in order. Not to be a total buzzkill, Chief, Shikamaru pointed out, but you really are not one of Tsunade's favorite people. You forget who I am, Shikamaru, Naruto replied. I am the unpredictable one. Since the old hag is not responsible this time around, I'll leave her out of this. His expression darkened. Sarutobi's two teammates are past their time for retirement. I'm going to see to that personally. For Hiashi and the three clan heads and their heirs, they made a mental note. Note. Do no piss Naruto and Hinata off. Ever. Konohagakure no Sato, 1 week later. Following a meeting with Danzo, Kaharu and Hanmura had returned to their separate homes. When asked about the Kimin mission, Danzo had replied that Sai had not brought back word of the mission's status, but the Warhawk was not worried. Sai was one of his best operatives, the Root Anbu who had went with him were the pick of the litter. Danzo had no worries that Sai would be successful in his mission to decapitate the imperial hierarchy. Hanmura reached his home first. He had lived in a modest two-story home in Konoha's residential district, 5 houses down from Kaharu. Following the Konoha exodus, he decided a change in living quarters was in order. He had his eyes on the Nara ranch, but the Hyuga compound looked very promising. As midnight approached, Hanmura entered his home. Despite not being an active shinobi in decades, Hanmura could tell that something was amiss. Either that, or he was starting to get paranoid in his old age. From the shadows, Naruto Namikaze watched his target. Using the Demon's Gate Jutsu, he had arrived in Tanzuka town, far enough from Konoha. Rather than using a henge to disguise himself, Naruto instead wore the Anbu uniform pilfered from one of the Root Anbu who had tried to kill him along with Sai. Only this time, he wore a kitsune mask to hide his face. Sneaking into Konoha was easy enough. Security in Konoha was incredibly lax, as they had gotten complacent in their abilities. He had toyed with the idea of killing both Sasuke and Hatake, but decided against it. Sasuke still had some use to him alive, and Zabuza wanted to take Kakashi's head himself. So he decided to check out the town. Using the Rinnegan, he spied on his former cellmates, the remnants of the Shinobi Council, and the civilians. No genjutsu he was not aware of. Even Jiraiya and Tsunade did not show signs of being under any type of genjutsu. As night fell, he hid inside the Namikaze estate, the seals allowing him access, as he was of the Namikaze line. To kill time before his personal mission, he even reinforced the seals so that Jiraiya could not break them. With his father's home secured and the midnight hour approaching, Naruto began his mission. When Hanmura entered his home, he had sealed his fate. Naruto knew he had to make his death look like either an accident or natural causes, or else Tsunade and the others would know that something is amiss. He knew that Kaharu had heart problems and had her already taken care of. For Hanmura, however, he decided on a more straightforward approach. Hanmura began to ascend the stairs which led to the second floor of his home. Imagine his shock and horror when upon reaching the second floor landing, that a kitsune-masked Anbu emerged from the shadows, grabbed him by his shirt and had him hanging on his tiptoes over the stairs. The only thing keeping him from falling to his death was the ANBU's iron grip on his shirt. With his other hand, Naruto removed the kitsune mask, allowing the elder to get a good look of his face. Recognize me now, Mitokado? I guess not. It has been 6 years since I was banished. Hanmura's eyes went wide. You, Uzumaki. He gasped. You can call me Emperor, Naruto replied, enjoying the look of sheer terror on the elder's face. Oh, yes, I know about Danzu's little plot to have myself killed, along with my wife, the council, my uncle and the clan heads who defected. I also know that you and Kaharu supported this little scheme. Don't worry. Kaharu will be joining you in death soon enough. It wasn't enough for you to kick me out of this cesspool for doing my job. Now, you and those 2 relics try and pull this stunt. Naruto, please. Hanmura pleaded. I'm sorry, we did what we thought was best. I know that you're sorry, councilman. Naruto's eyes then shifted into the Rinnegan. But for the sake of argument, let's pretend that you are not. With that, Naruto released Hanmura, who fell backwards, screaming as he fell down the stairs. The screams stopped when Naruto heard the unmistakable sound of a neck snapping. The now dead councilman landed in a mangled heap on the first floor. Walking down the stairs, Naruto inspected the body. Hanmura was dead, his neck twisted at an unnatural angle. If the broken neck did not kill him, then the cracked skull most certainly did, the pool of blood pooling around his head. One down, Naruto thought as he secured his kitsune mask and vanished via Shunshin. Kaharu's home, minutes later. Kaharu Udatane sat at her table, sipping at her tea. It was her favorite, jasmine petal, and has been since her days in Team Tobirama. She had been worried that Sai had not sent word or returned from the west, and he was due back days ago. Kaharu was always a realist, in some cases, even more so than Danzo and Hanmura. She had always believed that Konoha was the strongest of the shinobi villages. She also believed that the elders should rule the leaf, and that the position of Hokage should be in most cases, abolished. Well, not abolished, but the Hokage would be more of a figurehead. Only problem was that Tsunade was gaining more power and influence with the council. She continued to sip at her tea as an Anbu wearing a kitsune mask appeared from the shadows. Kaharu wasn't worried, as she assumed that the Anbu was one of Danzu's pets, and that if the root was inside her home, then that means that Danzo had an update on the Kimen mission. I take it that Danzo has sent you to give me an update on the mission into the Empire? Kaharu asked. She was most surprised when the Anbu pulled up a chair and sat down across from here. No, the Anbu replied, right before removing his mask, showing Kaharu his face. Kaharu's eyes widened. The Anbu seated before her looked a lot like Minato Namikaze, but with Kushina Uzumaki's hair color. Her eyes narrowed slightly before they widened in realization as to who was seated across from her. Naruto Uzumaki. The one and only, you old bitch, Naruto replied. Kaharu continued to sip at her tea. So you decided to show yourself after Sai and the Root Anbu murdered your beloved emperor, Kaharu snorted. Is that it, demon? Some sort of misguided revenge? You'd think that, wouldn't you? Naruto replied. For the record, Sai failed in his quest. The emperor is still alive. So you know him, then? I should, Naruto replied, eyes shifting into the Rinnegan. The emperor is me, Udatane. Hinata Hyuga is my wife. Kaharu put the pieces together, hiding her shock that the demon of Konoha was the most powerful man in the West. It was through your wife that the clan heads and their children were allowed asylum. That, and the fact that out of all the clans in this village, the Hyuga and the Inoshika Cho trio saw me as what my parents wanted the entire village to see me as, a hero. Their children does not see me as a demon. By granting them asylum into my empire, I am merely repaying them for their kindness towards me. So Sai failed, Kaharu murmured as she calmly sipped at her tea. What now? Easy, Naruto replied. I came here to watch you die. Bold words, demon brat, Kaharu replied acidly. You kill me, and then what? You won't make it out of Konoha, let alone Fire Country. She began to cough. Tsunade will see to that. The old hag can't see past her sake bottle, Naruto replied. As to the part where I kill you, I did that 30 minutes ago before I paid your teammate a visit. Koharu blinked. Then she felt the pain in her chest. She began to gasp for air, the teacup falling from her hands and smashed upon impacting the floor. Her coughing grew even more violent, up to the point where she was coughing up blood. She stumbled to her feet and began to stumble around the room, all the while Naruto calmly sat at his chair. Feel the pain in your chest, do you? Naruto taunted. The shortness of breath and the feeling of impending doom. You met my captain of my elite guard back in Kimen. The Minazuki clan also specialize in various types of poisons. Benasato was more than happy to assist in my personal mission. The poison you ingested through your tea basically causes you to go into a myocardial infarction. In other words, you're having a heart attack. You bastard. Koharu gasped. The poison is also untraceable, and will leave your system upon your death, Naruto continued. Your death will be written off as heart failure, given your past medical history with your bad heart. Oh, and don't worry about your precious Uchiha. I won't kill him, yet. He still have a use for me. He will be the catalyst for Konoha's destruction. Koharu let out a cry as she keeled over, her body twitching violently before laying still, the death rattle escaping from her lips. Give my regards to Hiruzen, Naruto deadpanned as he retrieved his mask and slipped it back on. 2 down. Underneath Konohagakure, Danzo Shimura walked down the corridors of his underground root compound. Having dismissed both Koharu and Hanmura, Danzo retired deeper into his underground chambers. He shared the same concerns as did Koharu and Hanmura, but he was not as worried as they were. Sai was his best man, and had never let him down just yet. He would have sent Sasuke to lead the mission, but decided against it. He had big plans for his Uchiha involving Konoha. Such a shame, Danzo thought as he headed to his office. The Empire would have been a worthy ally to the Leaf. Shame that they had refused to join us. But this has to be done to make sure that they do not join our enemies. Sai will not fail me. He does not know how to fail. When he entered his office, he was greeted with a horrific sight. Resting on his desk was Sai's head. Drained of blood, looking even more pale, eyes gouged out, tongue ripped out, the face locked in a mask of eternal pain. The cane clattered to the floor as Danzo stumbled forward several steps, then fell to his knees as the totality had struck him in full force. Sai was dead. His most loyal root operative was dead. It was at that moment Danzo realized that he could not move. Looking down at the floor, he saw that he was on an advanced-looking seal. What is this? Magnificent, isn't it? Danzo turned his head. Naruto emerged from the shadows, still dressed as an Anbu, the kitsune mask hiding his face, Rinnegan active. In one hand, was the tipless tanto the Anbu used for their primary weapons. Fuinjutsu is a very interesting art, wouldn't you agree, old man? Danzo looked at the eyes and saw the Rinnegan. You, the Emperor. Naruto grinned. Got it in one, Shimura. He gestured to the seal that Danzo was on. Just because I am a leader does not mean that, unlike you, who led from the shadows and believes that all shinobi are tools, I can get my hands dirty. That seal is of my own design, if I can be so modest. The seal is designed to drain you of your chakra and nullify any type of dojutsu, offensive and defensive seals you have on your person, and various bloodline-based abilities. The more you resist, the more painful it will be. So to recap, your mission failed. I'm still alive, as is my wife. The council is still alive. Takuma Uzumaki is still alive. Oh, and the 4 clan heads and their heirs are alive as well. He gestured to Sai's head. Removing the seal from Sai's tongue was pretty easy. He and the 3 other root Anbu we kept alive for interrogation purposes gave us some pretty useful information. Well, that and where you keep your dirty little secrets at, Naruto said, holding up a black book which had all of Danzu's past crimes written inside with great detail. I know that you and Sarutobi's former teammates orchestrated this little mission. Mitokado and Udatane had paid for this offense with their lives, Naruto continued. A broken neck with a cracked skull for Hanmura and a heart attack for Kaharu. Terrible business. I also know that you have a Sharingan behind those bandages, and that you tried to use it to persuade the council into agreeing into the alliance with Konoha, Naruto continued. Like I said, Fuinjutsu is a very interesting art, especially when used to repel genjutsu. He tapped at the fake arm hidden inside his robes. I also know about the special arm with the multiple Sharingans and the Senju DNA grafted to you. Now how would your little Uchiha pet and the old hag of a Hokage would react if they somehow find out that you ripped off their clan's respective bloodlines, Oh, I destroyed your reserves, by the way. You have any idea what you have done? Danzo grated, furious. Naruto continued to twist the knife. I also know that you conspired with the Uchiha in their attempted coup, but when Itachi notified Sarutobi, that forced your hand. I also know that you sold out the Uzumaki clan and Whirlpool to her enemies in the last war. Good thing that the Yondaime's wife did not trust you, as the Uzumaki fled west. You also conspired with Hanzo the Salamander and Dodo Kazuhana. The devil's hands have been very busy. For your crimes, I can just as easily kill you like I did to the other two. I can just as easily do to Konoha what you tried to do to my empire, kill the Godime, that super pervert of a teammate. I can just as easily execute the Konoha Council, wipe out the shinobi clans and their heirs. Better yet, I could have Naruto Uzumaki come back and unleash the nine tails upon this village. But I'm in a merciful mood and I will spare them, since they are innocent. For the time being, your life will also be spared, so you can bear witness. Konohagakure no Sato will fall by my hands. He pocketed Danzu's Black Ops book. In the meantime, I will keep this to make sure you keep your mouth shut. So listen and listen good. If you, or anyone else from the Leaf attack my homeland, my people or my interests, I will return, with my army. Naruto rose from his feet and exited the office, but not before incinerating Sai's head with a flame jutsu. 30 minutes later, the seal which kept Danzo in place was gone and the old Warhawk collapsed onto the ground. By the time he was able to move under his own power, Naruto was long gone, having used the Demon's Gate jutsu to safely return to the Empire. Later on that day, inside the council chambers, Tsunade had reported the passing of both Kaharu Udatane and Hanmura Mitokado. With their deaths, Danzo had lost his top two backers. But his hands were tied. If he told Tsunade what he knew, then the Emperor would literally unleash hell on Konoha. And before that, both Tsunade and Sasuke would kill him for stealing their respective bloodlines. And before that, both Tsunade and Sasuke would kill him for stealing their respective bloodlines. Sunagakure no Sato, Wind Country, 3 days after the conclusion of the Akatsuki invasion of Suna. It would be 3 days before Naruto regained consciousness. Oh, my head. His headache was soon gone as he felt the effects of the mystic palm jutsu. He recognized the touch in an instant. Hinata. Yes, love, it's me. Naruto slowly opened his eyes. He found himself stretched out on the couch inside the Casecage's office. Hinata was by his side, looking just as worn out as he was. The Emperor rose to a seated position. How long was I out? Almost 3 days. It's early evening, Hinata replied. You should take it easy, Naruto. You're still exhausted. I know. My reserves are at least half full, so I should be okay. What's been happening? Hinata sat down next to him. After the battle, I sent back word to the west that we had won. Ryuji and Haruka had ordered all Pakara merchants in the area to deliver food and aid to Suna. The Pakara merchant house has been busy around the clock. Remind me to send a thank you note to the Shinzens, Naruto replied. Anything else? Gaara's placed all of Suna under martial law, Kurama said as she entered the office, followed by Gaara, Shikamaru and the Sand siblings. Glad to see you're awake, Kit. Hinata has been by your side for the past couple of days. I noticed, Naruto replied. The others, the Jinchuriki, all are alive and accounted for, Shikamaru replied. Obito is under heavy guard around the clock. Congratulations, Namikaze. You have won a great victory. Naruto shook his head. No, we all did. I can't take the credit. We all fought long and hard, and against a powerful enemy. He stood up. Hinata had his cage-style hat in his hands. He graciously accepted it and placed the hat over his head. Gaara stepped up and extended his hand. Lord Namikaze. Congratulations. Naruto shook it. Same to you, Lord Cage. He looked at his clothes. Is there a place where I can clean myself up? I can't go out looking like this in front of my people. Tamari, show the Emperor our guest quarters, he said. Of course, Gaara. To Naruto, she said, follow me. Inside of the guest bedroom, Naruto, naked from the waist up, sat on the edge of the bed, fresh and clean from the shower while Hinata conducted an impromptu physical on her husband. Hinata knew every part of Naruto's body both figuratively and literally, which is why she had become his unofficial physician. Byakugan activated, Hinata checked Naruto's body for any and all internal injuries. Naruto's body had a myriad of cuts, scrapes and bruises. Even though Kurama was no longer his tenant, he still had the healing factor, a parting gift from the Nine Tails, which came in pretty handy, and still proved to be useful even now. Despite being the Emperor of the West, he was a hands-on type of ruler, which earned him the respect and admiration of his council, his subordinates and subjects. The battle with Itachi and Obito had taken a lot out of him, and he would not be ready to travel for a couple of days, which meant that he would have to wait until his chakra reserves were back to full capacity. Shikamaru, Nara and Tamari were going over the reports following the battle. Half of Suna is wrecked from the battle, but it's nothing that we can't overcome, Tamari said. Casualties? Naruto asked. Shikamaru looked over the reports. 0 dead, over 1,000 wounded from the Imperial forces. 0 dead from Suna, about 500 wounded. The hospital here was full to capacity, so Matsuri ended up using those buildings which survived the battle as triage centers for the extra wounded. The Suna and Imperial medics are working in 12-hour shifts to make sure that the injured are treated and taken care of. Medical supplies? Naruto asked, wincing slightly as Hinata poked a sore spot on his arm. Not a problem, seeing as we have a nice little surplus on reserve, Hinata replied as Naruto winced slightly. Did that hurt? A little, but I've been through worse, Naruto said. To Shikamaru, he asked, how you and your teammates holding up? Bit troublesome, but we'll live, Chief, the shadow user replied. I've read the reports on the battle, and I am glad to say that all that training under Okajima has paid off, Naruto said. Both your team and Cell 9 have gone beyond the call of duty, and you both will be recognized for your actions in not only saving Suna, but also stopping the Akatsuki and more importantly, thwarting a fourth shinobi war. Thanks, Shikamaru deadpanned. The both of you are dismissed, Hinata said. Once Shikamaru and Tamari were gone, Hinata deactivated her Byakugan and continued to inspect her husband, stopping to retrieve a small canister of healing salve and rubbing it all over the various bruises. Your injuries could have been a whole lot worse, she said. Given who my opponents were, I'm not surprised, Naruto replied. I faced down 2 Uchiha. One's dead, and the other will be executed once we return home. He turned his head in order to look at his wife. I thought that medics were to stay away from the battle. I'm not like any medic nin, Hinata replied. I am the Empress consort of the Western Empire. But most important of all, I am your wife, and I fight by your side. Seeing as how you conceal my chakra with your gentle fist, as well as causing untold levels of pain on my body, I know better not to disagree with you, Naruto deadpanned. Hinata smiled. Smart move, she said, pecking him on the nose. There. Done. She closed the jar of salve and placed it back inside her pouch. Nothing broken, thankfully. Naruto nodded as he finished getting dressed. The knock on the door came as Naruto finished dressing up in his battle uniform, the mesh shirt, black pants and ninja sandals. The black flak vest was partially covered by the black haori with the red flame pattern on the tail ends, the four symbols seal on his back in red. Whenever he was leading into battle, his hair was styled in spikes, similar as to how his father would usually wear it, rather than being combed back. He wore no Hitai-8, but reached for his cage-style hat instead. Hinata turned to the door. Come in. The door opened and in walked a battered Fu. Chief. Lady Hinata. What is it, Fu? Naruto asked, turning around. I received word from the Pakera outpost at the Wind Fire border. Konoha shinobi are on the way here, Fu reported. Naruto looked at Hinata, whose expression mirrored that of his own. They must have heard about the Akatsuki invading and want to try and get back on Gaara's good side, Naruto surmised. Too bad the battle's over. Turning back to Fu, he asked, how many are coming? At least 200 Junin. We managed to identify some of them who are coming. Both of your former senseis and cells have been identified. The others are Asuma Sarutobi, Maida Guy, and Yamato. The Godime and Jiraiya are leading the mission personally. We put their time of arrival at least 4 days from now. That caused Naruto to pause. Once again, the Emperor looked at his wife. Looks like playtime is officially over, Naruto said. Hinata nodded. I agree. It's time to reveal ourselves to our former village, she said. No more hiding. To Fu she said, you're dismissed. Fu nodded and returned to the imperial consulate in the village. 4 days later, the city gates had been blown off, the city walls had cracks, crevasses and holes. Bodies of Zetsu clones littered the area surrounding the city gates as Tsunade and the Konoha envoy approached the gates. The Konoha ninja identified the Suna ninja by their style of flak vests. Squads of Suna Junin and Imperial troops were hard at work rounding up the bodies and burning them in several giant pyres. The Konoha envoy passed several of them as they approached the gates. Pakera merchants led their caravans into and out of the city, dropping off food and aid. What surprised Tsunade and the others was as they approached the city walls, they noticed the number of tents located on one side of the city gates, the Imperial forces having made camp, since Suna was too small for the Imperial forces to contain. They could hear the laughter and the music coming from the camp, as the Imperial soldiers recounted their heroic feats of not only themselves, but of their emperor, the Empress consort, the Kazekage, and of the Suna ninja, of which the Imperial forces have grown to respect. Tsunade frowned. From what Jiraiya had told her, it took them nearly a week to reach the west by boat, and half that time by airship. And yet, here were Imperial shinobi in and around Suna. Jiraiya's expression matched that of his former teammate as he looked at the number of Imperial shinobi and samurai. The spy network reported that with the number of white Zetsu clones combined with the 6 paths of pain and the remaining members of the Akatsuki participating in this battle, Suna's chances of coming out of this alive were nil. The number of Imperial forces here could mean one thing, Jiraiya said as they approached the gates. Either the Emperor or someone on his side is highly skilled in time-space ninjutsu. Tsunade nodded. It seems that way, she said. With the deaths of Koharu and Hanmura, their power and influence had returned to Tsunade. The two elders had always supported the civilian side of the council, and with the both of them gone, the influenced civilian side of the council once had was now all but crippled. I don't care about these people, Sasuke snarled, dressed in his Anbu uniform, Chikudo slung behind his back. Itachi is here, and I don't care who stands in my way. I want Itachi's head on a stake. Had Sasuke and the others were paying attention, they would have noticed a burning pyre that was being tended to by the Imperial troops. Had Sasuke been paying attention, they would have seen the bodies of Kazuku, Konan, Nagato, as his body was recovered from Omegakure, the 6 paths, Kisame Hoshigaki and Itachi Uchiha being fed to the flames. Asuma Sarutobi approached the gates of the village with apprehension. The reason being was that his former students were working with the Suna guards at the gate, signing in the Pakera caravans as they entered the village. The Ino Shika-cho looked just as worn out and battered from the war, but alert and ready for anything. Naruto had summoned both their team and Cell Guy into a private meeting, warning them of Konoha's impending arrival earlier that day, and told them that Konoha would soon be arriving on Suna's doorstep and of his and Hinata's plans to reveal themselves to their former village. He also told them that if they did not wish to see the impending fight, then they can remain inside the cage tower until the matter is concluded. Cell 9 chose to remain inside, as Neji, Tenten and Rock Lee refused to have any further dealings with Guy. That and both Neji and Rock Lee were still wounded, and since the triage centers were full to capacity, Gaara allowed the both of them to recover inside his home. For Asuma, it had been 2 years since the last time he had seen his former cell. He believed in Konoha, and that in order for Konoha to be recognized as the strongest of the shinobi villages, then sacrifices must be made. That was why he had supported the banishment of Uzumaki, and the CRA. But Konoha's actions had the opposite effect, as it barely held on as one of the 5 strongest villages. Ino saw the approaching Konoha shinobi. Hold it. State your business. She trailed off when he saw Asuma. Oh, it's you, Captain Sarutobi. Asuma winced. His former cell had never forgave him. Still hasn't from the look of things. What are you doing here? Ino demanded. Last time I checked, Suna and Konoha are on bad terms. Regarding that incident, she said, glaring daggers at Sasuke. You're not welcome here in Suna. Go home. Tsunade frowned at the blatant disrespect her former student was showing. We came out of good faith. We came to see Gaara and see if he needs help in repelling the Akatsuki. There's no need for that, Lady Hokage, Temari replied as she appeared, looking just as haggard as the Ino Shika-cho. The battle is over. Has been for the past 2 days. Tsunade blinked. So, Suna still stands, the Wind Mistress replied. If it wasn't for the Emperor and his imperial forces, we would have been overrun. Sorry you came this way, Senju, but Konoha is still not welcome here. Take your ninja and go. Wait. Sasuke stepped forward. Where is Itachi? Was he here? He demanded. He was, Temari replied. The Emperor was fighting him. Without another word, Sasuke stormed forward, ignoring the calls from Tsunade and the others. Sighing, Tsunade turned to Temari. Can you take us to the cage so we can get a report on what has happened here? Temari sighed. Fine. Just don't alienate the Imperial troops here. Asuma gave one longing look at his former cell, who was back at work with signing in Pakara merchants, ignoring him completely. His actions in the past regarding Ino and the Restoration Act had all but destroyed the relationship he once had with them as their sensei. Kurenai placed one reassuring hand on his shoulder. Come on, Asuma. They made their choice, she said in a soothing tone. Asuma sighed. I know. Damn it, he cursed as he followed Kurenai into the village. Imperial forces patrolled the streets with Suna shinobi as Tsunade and the others made their way towards the cage tower. Carts filled with dead Zetsu clones were being hauled off to be incinerated by disposal units. What the hell happened here? Kakashi asked. It started with Sasori and Deidara attempting to kidnap Gaara, Temari began. But the Emperor and his wife were here on an inspection tour of the Imperial Consulate, and they helped in killing both Akatsuki members. It was then revealed as Deidara lay dying by the Empress consort's hands that the Akatsuki planned on invading Suna to gain a foothold. 100,000 Zetsu clones, created by the Akatsuki as their main attack force, plus their remaining members against Suna's shinobi forces, with 4 battalions and 3 special forces units of the Imperial Defense Forces, with the Emperor and Empress consort leading them alongside my brother. Our combined numbers were 80,000 to their 100,000. 100,000. That's nuts. Kiba exclaimed. You guys were outnumbered 2 to -1. Temari smiled. True, but the Emperor and his wife has fought against twice that number when they was uniting the West. I heard that he could bring about victory from defeat. Those rumors turned out to be very true. Those 100,000 clones turned out to be a major disadvantage when in close quarters. It's not entirely impossible for a smaller force to defeat a much larger force, Shino noted. Minato Namikaze decimated Iwa's ninja force by himself in the last Shinobi War. And his son just blew his kill record out of the water, Tamari thought. She had heard rumors of the Hiroshin in action from Iwa ninja. Seeing it in action, on the other hand, was a completely different story. It was beautiful, but at the same time, very deadly. How did the Emperor manage to marshal such a force in such a small amount of time? Jiraiya asked. The Emperor is a master of time-space jutsu, Tamari replied, thus confirming both of the Sannin. To be able to transport 4 battalions of shinobi and samurai from one continent to another has to be hell on one's chakra reserves. Reaching the town square, the area was clear of the Zetsu clones. On the opposite end of the square, Tsunade saw him. The Emperor of the Western Empire. The man radiated authority, and was dressed in all black, black flak vest, pants and sandals. The sleeveless haori was also black, but had a red flame pattern on the tail ends and a second symbol which Tsunade could not see clearly. His face was concealed by the black cage-style hat he wore on his head. The Godime Hokage nudged Jiraiya. Is that him? Jiraiya nodded. That's him, all right. The Emperor of the Unified West. Looks like he's heading elsewhere. He summoned Yamato. The Mokoden-wielding Anbu commander was at Jiraiya's side in an instant. Sir. Follow the Emperor, Jiraiya ordered. Report anything out of the ordinary to myself or Tsunade. Yamato nodded and departed from the group. Tsunade gave the order to the others to help out in any way they could while she and Jiraiya went inside to talk to Gaara and the Sand siblings. With Yamato, the Imperial Consulate was a walled compound 2 blocks away from the Cage Tower. As with the rest of Suna, the compound was damaged in the fighting, but was still livable. The Imperial representative was Hikaru Shinto, Rose Shinto's uncle and an accomplished shinobi. When the invasion came, he fought alongside his Emperor and Empress consort, and was wounded during the fight between Hidan and Kazuku. Before Hidan could perform his ritual, it was Sadako Asahina who had made the save as she incinerated the bloodthirsty Jashinist priest ninja, reducing him to ash. The Imperial Consulate was also the place where the Jinchuriki were resting up following the Battle of the Sand. The Jinchuriki, Yugito ni, Killer Bee, Utakata, Roshi, Han and Fu, had fought valiantly in the battle which lasted for 4 hours. Even A had gotten in on the action, fighting at his brother's side. Yamato watched from a safe distance as the Emperor entered the Imperial Consulate. The gates were guarded by Imperial guards. Yamato saw that the building next door to the complex was not guarded, which was perfect enough for him to sneak in. The building itself was 3 stories tall, but tall enough for him to look over the compound walls. Yamato took notice of a gaping hole in the wall which would give him a perfect view of the inside of the consulate's courtyard. The building itself was unguarded, allowing Yamato easy access. Yamato made his way to the 3rd floor and found the jagged hole overlooking the consulate. What he saw surprised him. Jiraiya and the Godime had suspected that the Empire had taken the Jinchuriki, he thought. Look like they were right. I see Killer Bee, Yugito, Utakata, Fu and those 2 from Iwa, but no Uzumaki. And who is the red-headed woman with them? He watched as the Emperor emerged from the consulate. Almost immediately, the Jinchuriki and the red-headed woman stood before the Emperor and went down on one knee. Money cannot buy the honor which you all have earned through your actions during this conflict, Yamato had heard the Emperor say to the Jinchuriki and the mystery redhead. Your actions here in the past several days will forever be remembered, as you have brought much credit upon yourselves and on the unified Western Empire. As Emperor of the Imperial Nation, I declare you all national treasures of the Empire. Sir. Kurama and the Jinchuriki barked out in unison. Having seen enough, Yamato silently left the scene, unaware that he had tripped a hidden seal alerting the Emperor to his presence. In the consulate, Naruto merely smiled. With Kurenai and Cell 9. When Kiba and Shino had told Kurenai about their visit to Kimen, Kurenai was especially concerned about the description of the Empress consort. So when they passed a triage center, curiosity had gotten the better of the trio and they walked inside. Several rows of cots were lined up throughout the room, each of them containing either an injured shinobi or samurai. As Suna medic nins, imperial medic nins and combat surgeons worked to make sure that they were comfortable. The former cell identified Matsuri instantly, as she was talking with several other Suna medics. And Kurenai saw her. It had been 6 years, but she recognized her former pupil in an instant. Her hair was cut short, but it was in a much different style than she wore as a genin under her command. Kiba saw that she had filled out in all the right places and was trying his hardest not to gawk, or drool, at his one-time crush. Kurenai saw that she was a medic nin, and her attire had backed that claim, a black shinobi shozoku with a fishnet undershirt, black junin flak vest. A satchel of medical supplies was strapped to the small of her back along with a pair of curved knives. Kurenai deduced that they were not from the east, but despite the exotic look to them, they were very deadly. She was talking with several imperial medics, an air of authority around her. Kurenai felt happy, but at the same time betrayed when Hinata had ran off with Naruto when the banishment orders had came down from the Godime. In the east, she was a wanted ninja, an A- rank missing nin in the bingo book. But she was an imperial medic ninja, and under the protection of the unified Western Empire. Need help with anything? A passing combat medic asked. Are you injured? Kurenai quickly responded. No. Actually, I was wondering if I could speak with that woman over there, she said, pointing to Hinata. Sure, the combat medic replied before walking over to Hinata and whispering in her ear. Kurenai watched as Hinata turned and faced her. Hinata did not look the least bit shocked upon seeing her former sensei and teammates again. Thanking the combat medic, Hinata walked over to her former cell. With a flick of her head, she gestured that she wanted to speak with them outside. Hinata led her former sensei and her former cell out into the Suna night. Stopping once they were outside, Hinata turned and faced Kurenai and the two men, and Akamaru. Isn't this something? Hinata said. Cell 8, together again. Hinata. Kurenai began, not knowing whether to either be disappointed or proud of her former student. You look good. Real good, Kiba seconded. You can drop the act, Kurenai, Hinata said, folding her arms across her chest. Kurenai frowned. This reunion had just went south quick. That's Kurenai-sensei to you, Hinata, she snapped. No, because seeing as how you denounced me when I left Konoha with Naruto, I don't see you as my sensei anymore, Hinata rebuked. What I want to know is this, why did you denounce me? Kurenai sighed. She turned away, as she could not look Hinata in the face. Hinata, what you did to me that day, what you did to all of us. I saw it as a betrayal. Even after I warned you about Uzumaki, that he was nothing but a fox in human skin, you still ran off, abandoned the village when he was banished. When I found out what you did, I saw it as a betrayal. She turned back to face her former student. So, yes, I denounced you. Judging by your tone, you still stand by your decision, Hinata noted. She did not sound surprised. Did you support the Godime's decree that Naruto should be banished? I did, Kurenai replied firmly. We all did. We still believe in that the Godime and the council did the right thing, Hinata. Not everyone, Yuahi, Hinata said. My father and my sister, the Ino Shikacho and their children, my cousin and his teammates, they honored the Yondaime's request, something that you, Asuma and the others should have done. Kurenai's eyes narrowed. Just how much did Hinata know? Realization then crept across her face as she said, it was you, wasn't it? You talked the emperor into allowing the clan's asylum. The former heiress nodded before turning to both Kiba and Shino. I can tell that the both of you think that my husband is a demon in human flesh, she continued. But he is not. You married him, Kiba exclaimed. You married the demon, Hinata. How could you? Why not? Hinata replied. You of all people know I've always admired him back when we were genin. We've been married for 3 years now. Naruto is not the Nine Tails in human form. He is the Jinchuriki, the prison, warden and cell. The cup, but not the water. I met the fox personally and I can honestly say that she is very polite for a biju. Kurenai blinked. The fox is female. Did you ever wondered why I decided to run when Tsunade banished him? Hinata asked. No, I guess I'll come clean and tell you. The clan elders planned on branding me with that damned seal, so my father sent me away with Naruto for my own safety. It was his own way of saying sorry for being such an asshole to me for the past couple of years, as well as protecting me. Out of all the clans in the Leaf, only my father, and the Ino Shika-cho honored the Yondaime's final request, and did not see Naruto as a demon. What does that have to do with anything? Kiba demanded. Everything, Hinata replied. When Naruto was banished, Tsunade also reversed Sarutobi's law, as I was there that day. Naruto had to be out of Konoha by the end of the day, and out of Fire Country by the end of the week. But she didn't say anything about his parents, didn't she? What about that demon? Kiba retorted. Hinata meanly smiled. Naruto is not a no-named orphan like most of the village think. Hinata, you're on dangerous ground, Kurenai warned. Ever notice how Jinchuriki are related to people in positions of power? Hinata continued. Gaara's father was the previous Cage. Killer Bee's brother was the former Raikage. Naruto is no different. Tsunade and the council, in their so-called infinite wisdom, banished the son of the Yellow Flash and his wife, the Red Death. Hinata. Kurenai shouted. That is a SS class secret. They can't know about that. Well, it's a good thing that I'm not under Konoha's authority now, isn't it? Hinata retorted. Yes, Naruto is the legitimate son of Minato Namikaze and his wife, Kushina Uzumaki, who was the Jinchuriki to the Nine Tails at the time. Tsunade and Jiraiya tried to destroy all proof of his existence, but my husband is not known as the unpredictable ninja for nothing. The proof was hidden inside the forbidden scroll of sealing, which was easy for him to steal a second time. Kurenai, on the other hand, was fuming. She couldn't touch Hinata, as she was not under Konoha's command. The second was that she was an unknown. People change in 6 years, and judging by the flak vest she wore, Hinata was an experienced Junin and a highly skilled medic nin. And she had spent time